I know it's time for me to share some testimony with you. 2 days ago, I received the 3-day notice that I need to leave this house that God told me to stay in. Yep, it sounds completely crazy, doesn't it? The house has been sold, and I've received a 3-day notice, just in time for Sabbath, by the way. So God knows what he's doing. Just in time for Sabbath, right in the middle of it. So there's no planning, there's no work to be done, but a Sabbath right in the middle of it, in which I'm preparing to enter into Sabbath the day before. Then I enter into Sabbath, and I've got to enter his rest, which means no packing, no planning, no scrambling, no ruminating. And I've got to remember what he's told me, not what man is telling me on a piece of paper. And so as I was sitting down this morning to write in my journal and first do my personal examination work, then bring myself to God, the thing that he's showing me right now is what he's created me into, what he's molded me into. I lived a life of fear and ignorance, fear of man, not fear of God, fear of man, and then trusting man, in part because that's what I learned to do with my father. I needed him, so I had to trust him, right? Because a child needs her father. But he was a bad man, and I feared him, not in a good way. I did not trust him because he was not trustworthy, and yet I had to put trust in him. It's a very confusing thing for a child. And because I did not heal from it, this is what I did. I went out into the world and learned to trust unsafe men and to set them up as idols. So this has been a really difficult thing for me to sort through with God and to learn how to trust him and to keep putting more and more stock into him, even while he's not fulfilling what he's told me he's going to do. And I have to tell you, it's been incredibly painful. And I also have to tell you that I'm not the only one. You don't listen to my story. The reason I share my testimony with you or share my story is not as a source of entertainment. It is because I know that you have your own wounds that you project onto God, and I'm trying to share with you that you're required to heal from those wounds. So I'm in this position of feeling scared, but reminding myself of the things that God has told me along the way. You must not fear man, and you must not trust man, and you must stand in your faith, or you will not stand at all. These are some of the most important things that he has said to me. But I still feel scared, and I have to keep reminding myself of who God is and what he has said, that he can't be anything but faithful to those who are faithful to him. And so I get this 3-day notice, and I'm thinking, okay, where do I go from here? What do I need to do? What does God expect? And that's where I go now. I don't go to the places that I used to go to, which are controlling by the works of my flesh, planning, okay, shut off the utility, have the utilities shut off by this day, plan the movers, pack everything up, go consult with the people I need to consult with. As God has brought me further and deeper into him, these things are not even options anymore. The only option is to go to him. And I want to remind you that when the fire came, the fires here in Los Angeles, specifically in Eaton Canyon Golf Course is about half a mile from my house. And no sooner did I get that text message from my neighbor, did I walk outside, that fire was right behind my house. And coming across the mountain that is 2 or 3 houses up from me. It literally happened in a second. And I knew that the evacuations we were going to be told to evacuate soon, and I went and drew a bath. And I told you the reason why I drew the bath. The reason I drew the bath is because God calls me. When he's calling me in, he tells me to draw a bath. And the reason is I can't distract myself. I'm isolated with him, and I just sit there and talk with him. And that is what I did when that fire was behind my house. And the reason I did it is because I did not want to be tempted in my flesh to be packing while I was sorting through what God wanted me to do. I didn't want to leave out of fear, and I also didn't want to stay out of fear. I needed to make a decision in him that was based in faith and was based in his instruction. So I sat in the bath until he gave me that instruction. And the instruction was to leave. And so I packed my stuff and I went to my kid's house, but I was still sorting through, did I make the right decision, or did I make this decision in fear? Have I pleased you, Lord? These are the only things that matter to me anymore. All of the loyalty, all of the devotion that I gave human beings that never satisfied, that never fulfilled, that I was always betrayed, I pour all of that into God now. Because it was always meant for God. It was not meant for my Father to covet and take for himself. It was never meant for man. It was always meant for God. And in the days following, God showed me that I had made the right decision, because I was concerned that I wanted to make sure that my motives were clear, that I was not making a decision and convincing myself that God had told me to go ahead and go to the kid's house. But you have no idea the faith that it required in order for me to leave and trust that I wasn't going to be home to put out embers and that my home was going to be intact when I came back. And it was. Everything was intact. And do you know that every single neighbor around me stayed home, stayed back, and were putting embers out in their yard? Some of them, their yard started to catch on fire. The wood chips in their yard, their trees started to catch on fire. And not a single thing was singed at my house. And it required a lot of faith for me to believe each day that my home would be here when I came back. Even as my neighbors were texting me and telling me these stories about having embers flying into their faces and holding out a hose just to keep themselves from catching on fire. Okay, that's how serious that was. And yet nothing was damaged at my house. In fact, there was minimal soot inside of my house. That was a major issue for people, was that there was a lot of soot, minimal soot, just around, a little bit around the windowsills. That was it. So what did he have me do? He had me sit in the bath. He had me sort it through with him, even though that fire, I'm telling you, was moving so quickly. No sooner did I get that text was it behind my house. The same things apply here. I feel scared. There are 3 days, there are not 3 days anymore because that was 2 days ago. So tomorrow would be day 3. That would be the day that I need to leave. And I'm sitting in a Sabbath entering God's rest. Not planning. And, you can still, even though you're not writing anything down, you could start ruminating and planning in your head and going to all kinds of places inside of yourself. I'm not doing that. I keep going back to him. And what he's showing me today is that he has made me into something very different from what I was my entire life. I keep putting more and more hope and more stock into God, even though he's not fulfilling this particular thing. It's not that he's not doing other things in other areas of my life, but he's not fulfilling this one thing. And it's scary. It's scary to keep putting trust and keep putting hope, especially when you have been betrayed by the people you should have been able to trust in your life. But God requires us to heal because he has sent those things, and he sent them for a reason, in order for us to learn something. And I've learned a lot through the experiences that I had with my father about how the devil works and how I handed myself over to the devil. Like, what kind of craziness is that? How if you don't heal and you don't return to God, you will end up hurting yourself your entire life. And that's what I did. Trusting those and fearing those who should not be trusted and should not have any access to me. And yet I gave them full access to destroy me. But today, I'm not planning, I'm not packing, I'm not turning to man, I'm not fearing or trusting man. I'm standing in what he has said. Even though he's only said it to me, I don't have anyone else to confirm that he has said these things about where he wants me to live, what he wants me to do. All I have is a 3-day notice, with tomorrow being the 3rd day. What kind of faith does God require, people of God? One in which you think Jesus paid it all and you're just sitting here and waiting for him to pick you up? Or what kind of faith does he require? Because my Bible talks about a furnace. My Bible talks about being purified, made spotless, and refined. And the process of doing that with gold is to put it through the fire. My Bible talks about picking up your daily cross, eating your daily bread from the mouth of God, suffering for the name. My Bible talks about the fiery ordeal and how judgment comes on God's church first. Where are all of you? Where are your testimonies? Don't you want to share your testimonies so that there's meaning to what you're experiencing, or do you not have one? I'm sharing my testimony with you, not as a means of entertainment, though most of you treat it that way. I am sharing my testimony with you to let you know this is what's required. This is the fiery ordeal. This is the judgment that comes on God's house and the faith that he requires you to stand in. No matter what, no matter if your situation seems completely impossible and tomorrow is the last day you have in your house, with no plan and not a single thing packed, but full trust in what God has promised to do and in who he is. I'm giving him my all in this situation with 1 day left. And usually you have a day of planning and then you have a day of doing, don't you? How would I even plan and do in the same day? But I'm giving him my all, and I don't want it any other way. And the last part of that sentence, of that statement, is very important to me. At this point, I don't want it any other way than where he's brought me. There was a time in my life when I would return to God and he would restore me, and then I'd go back out and I'd be like, well, yeah, but you're not here in the flesh. And I need this person to tell me what to do. And I need this person to take care of me. And I need this expert to heal me. You're not enough, God. You're just sort of a cute little hobby that I go to when I'm down and out. And I don't even have the sense to recognize that all those people I think I need are seeking my destruction. I don't have the sense to recognize that every time I return to you, you're faithful. And you're the only one who's ever been faithful. No, I need them. I'm afraid of them. And yet I place all of my trust and my hope in these very people I'm terrified of. I'm giving God my all, and I don't want it any other way. I don't want to return to the vomit that I lived in before. And he's done this. He's the one who's taught me to place myself in his hands. And I don't want it any other way. He's taught me to seek his kingdom first and not to be focused on the things that pagans worry about. What am I going to wear? Where am I going to live? What am I going to eat? I don't want it any other way. What could be better than seeking the kingdom of God? I want him. And I didn't do this. He did it. He brought me to this place. And I want you to know that in the midst of knowing all of that, there is also a part of me that is still wounded, that feels like, but he's not doing anything. It doesn't feel like he really wants me. And I have to sort through that. It's my job to sort through that. It's my job to listen for his confirmations and to not rely on my own understanding about how those confirmations need to come in. Otherwise, I won't believe. And he's done this in part by putting me in these impossible situations where I can't really move much to the left or right. I have to rend my heart to where he's hemmed me in. And it's extremely uncomfortable because I squirm in that spot until I finally break. And so in this feeling of, I want you, but it doesn't seem like you want me right now, I have only to go to what I know, which is when I feel this way, he's testing me. And when he's testing me, I have to acknowledge this is what I feel, here's where it's coming from. I have to go in and examine myself, or I'm not going to make it through the test. I'm just going to white knuckle it, and that doesn't fly with God. White knuckling does not change you. We have to be changed. And so I'm comforted that he has, and I'm reminding myself that he's brought me to a genuine place of wanting him in his kingdom and of no longer longing for the things of the world. I'm not longing for anything or anyone else. I want to be with my family. I don't care what we have in terms of material possessions. I want a simple life in Christ, the life that he established, that he knew was good. That's what I long for. I want presence. I want meaning that comes from living in God's kingdom and serving him and feeling the joy of being his family. This is truly and genuinely what my heart wants. And he has tested me in order to make sure that that's what my heart wants, in order to make sure that I have been changed. And this is a comfort to me. This is the affirmation, the confirmation that I've been looking for from him, that I'm his, and that he can't forsake, and that he's done something here, that there's been meaning and purpose to the pain. That's what he's showing me today. He's changed me. He's changed my heart. I'm not trying to control anymore. You know that all my life, I was such a control freak that people used to say things, mean things, but they used to say them nonetheless. They used to use language like, oh, you're anal retentive, right? Because I'm super clean and organized or always was. They called me, it would say things like, oh, you have obsessive compulsive disorder. You have obsessive compulsive personality disorder. I mean, all these like stupid things. And it was like family and colleagues and whatever else, because I do things in a particular way. I'm very clean. I'm very organized. But also, there was an edge. Like, I couldn't relax if it wasn't like that, If I couldn't relax if things weren't in a particular orderly way. Part of that came from a compulsive need to control. That's not my life anymore. I still like things to be orderly and neat and clean, but it's not going to wreck me if it's not. Part of that actually has come from observing Sabbaths, because it drives me, it would have driven me insane, out of my mind, to leave a dish in the sink. But I've learned discipline. I've learned how to withhold from things that my flesh wants to control. I'm no longer turning away from God to man in order to save me. I'm not planning for a life here. Everything is in God. And I know, just like with the fire, that things can change in a second with him. He can do whatever he wants. He can part the sea and make a highway for me to cross through and swallow my enemies behind me. I'm no longer sitting down to pray, sitting down to spend time with God, quote unquote, and praying for myself so that I can then go and live a life for me. These aren't my motives anymore. I have needs that I pray for, but I long to see his kingdom of priests. This is what I've been doing in this ministry he's had me doing. In part, rending my heart to building his kingdom and being focused on that, and everything else will be added to me. My longing now is to serve and to please him. But that longing, that loyalty was given to worthless men like my dad all of my life. But God has caused me to give it to him, and he's taught me how to live in it correctly. And if that's the truth, if that's what God is showing me, this is not wrong. This can't be wrong, what I've been doing, what I've believed in him. This is truly what my heart wants now. I want him. So he has to do something. He has to save my faith. He has to, in his sovereignty, conform all things for the good of those who love him and have given everything to him. He has to correct if there's something wrong. And Lord knows he corrects me. He doesn't have a problem doing that. So here's the thing. If you're under his care, if you're in his house, if you're in his name, and you're serving there, and this is what you're doing, you're becoming this new creation, and your heart is truly being changed, when you're going through things like this, where someone's going to take your house from under you tomorrow, you can bring yourself to a place of confident faith that God is going to do something, because you're genuinely his. And because serving in his house and serving in his name does not mean, and being under his care does not mean that you unilaterally make decisions about what you're doing. It means you receive all instruction from him, and he cares for you. And that you are in him and he is in you. You have become one, joined, married. How could he abandon himself? This is why the Israelites prayed things like, Lord, for the sake of your name. Is he going to profane his own name by forsaking his own house? Do not the scriptures say that a man who does not provide for his house is worse than an unbeliever? If that's true of man, what does it mean about God? But see, people of God, you have to make sure that you are in his house. You have to make sure that you have been serving him and not self. Or you're not going to be able to stand when your house is going to be taken from you tomorrow. You have to make sure that the fruit that you're bearing truly is that you have become a new creation. You no longer fear the things you once feared. You no longer trust the things you once trusted in. You no longer live for the things that you once lived for. You're no longer trying to control, but you've completely placed yourself in the care of God, knowing that if you are serving him, you are in his house and he must take care of you. Not because of your righteousness, not because of your works, but because of who he is and what he promises in the covenant. He must fulfill the covenant if you are fulfilling yours. He is not a man that he should lie. You have an agreement with him that you fulfill your part, he fulfills his. This is his part because of his righteousness, because of his sovereign choice, because of his mercy. But he says it. He says that this is who he is. This is not a fantasy or a fairy tale. This life in God, it's not some, poetic thing. I hear people say that all the time. Like there's passages in the Bible that are poetic, meant to be poetic. No, they're not. God's not entertaining you with the Bible. He's edifying you. These are commands. This is clear cut. This is what I expect. This is what you can expect. What I was living with human beings, that was throwing myself into fantasy. What I'm talking to you about right now is the truth. This is how you are required to live, to put all of your hope in him. God brought that fire in a second. The moment I found out, the moment my neighbor said, come across the street, stand in my driveway and look behind your house. The moment I found out, it was already hopping over the hill. And God had me take a bath. He had me take a bath and sit with him before making any decisions. He didn't have me panicking to pack a bag or cry about the home I might lose. He taught me prudence. He taught me rest. And because I rest in him, I was able to go to that place of, you're sovereign. Everything is in you. I trust you implicitly. He caused me to stay with him and to make sure that I was in the right standing with him before doing anything. And that I was not making a decision to leave out of fear, or a decision to stay out of fear. And likewise, this situation I'm in is impossible to man. It's impossible to the world. It's foolishness to the world. But I know God. And I know that he's sovereign. And I know that man is not. And I know that he has all power and all knowledge, and that he says he's faithful. And I know I have not forsaken him. I have not denied his name. Not for one day have I done that. I have continued to get on here and share my testimony with you, even though so many of you treat my testimony with disdain. It's completely lost on you, or it's an entertainment for you. You don't know how to use it. And most of the time, I don't want to share it with you, to be honest. It's very vulnerable. It's very difficult to be sharing things in real time that I'm going through. It is a difficult thing to sit here and know that most people think I'm an absolute idiot, that I'm a complete fool to have given up all of my wealth and to be in the position that I now am in. And yet, for the sake of his name, and because of my duty and my obligation and my loyalty and devotion to God, I get on here and I share with you what I'm going through. And you know why? because I know that when the Antichrist rises and I'm not here, you're going to need this. In 4 months, you're going to need this because you're going to be required to stand in it. And even though so many of you hate the things I say, you hate the way I say it, you don't recognize it as love, you think that love is for me to entice and seduce you all the way to hell with sweet words and false doctrines of peace and, oh yeah, you're doing everything right. Just wait for Jesus, he'll come. What I'm doing with you is love. When God sends his prophets, it's because you haven't been listening to him. And so many times people tell me things like they dismiss me by saying, well, God doesn't talk to me like that. Well, guess what? God has sent his witnesses, his prophets, to warn you before the Antichrist rises. You haven't been listening to God. Don't tell me he doesn't talk to you like that. You don't listen. And that's exactly what God told Ezekiel. I'm sending you to an obstinate people. You are to speak what I tell you to speak, whether they listen or they fail to listen. And they're not going to listen to you because they don't listen to me. He gives you the warning. And he's already prophesied as well that he tried to cleanse you. He tried to cleanse you through the testifying, through the teaching, through the accessibility of these prophets, of these witnesses. But you wouldn't be clean. So you will not be clean again until his wrath against you has subsided. He has already said that when the Antichrist rises, that first of all, the multitude in white robes come out of the great tribulation. So you're going to be here a while. And that he spares his witnesses from the hour of trial that he's going to bring on the entire earth to test the inhabitants of the earth. Do you hear what he's doing with me? Do you hear the testing? Do you hear the furnace? If this is what I'm going through, I don't even want to know what you're going to go through. He's going to spare me from that hour of testing, but the multitude in white robes will remain. I'm not sharing for your entertainment. I'm sharing for you to understand what he expects, what you're going to need to stand in, what you're going to need to become. So please go discern that with God.